Good afternoon. So I'm going to talk to Martin Freeman for a bit, and then we'll take some questions from the audience. We've just seen a range of work. I thought I'd just start with a theatre question. The hottest ticket in London at the moment is Benedict Cumberbatch in Hamlet. Have you managed to get a ticket?
Yes, I went the other night.
Did you have to pay, or?
No.
No.
No, I was. We were invited to come, and yeah, he was really good. Yeah, he was really good. He was very clear. Made Shakespeare very accessible, I thought, in his mouth. Yeah.
And had he come to? He came to your Richard III.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
He did. Yeah. I don't know if he paid, but yes, he did. He did. Yeah.
And it is. I know from talking to actors, it's slightly tricky business. This what you say when you go to see a friend or a co-star in a show. So are there?
Yeah.
I mean, Alan Bennett famously said, as you know, that the only words you can speak are marvellous, marvellous, marvellous. So if you pick out a single moment, they think you hated the rest of it. You can't mention a co-star and all that. So do you have rules for this?
Well, I learned very early on. I was doing a play here, actually. I was doing a play here many years ago, and the director said, because I think we were going to see other plays and people coming to see our play, and and I was pretty young then, and still learning about what you say and what you don't say. And he said all you can say to somebody else while they're doing a play is, you can only be positive, because anything else just isn't helpful at that time. Certainly overt criticism isn't helpful, because there's nothing they can do about it. And nor should they, really. They shouldn't really take your notes on particularly. I mean, I've taken one note on, actually in Richard III, an actor who shall remain nameless, but said in an email, how about, it'd be quite good maybe if you just tried that. And I thought, fuck you. And then I thought, you're a good actor, maybe I will try that. And it worked.
Was it an actor who played Richard III?
Never you mind. Yeah, he had played it.
And we're going to talk about a number of the roles that we saw on that screen, but one that isn't. I'm always interested when we look at those sites like IMDb, the first entry for an actor, and your first TV entry is the bill.
Of course, yeah.
Do you have vivid memories of that? Can you remember the name of the character?
I think he was it Craig Parnell or Chris Parnell?
Craig Parnell.
I think it was
well
Craig
done.
Parnell. Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah.
I was really excited to be in the bill. I'd done about 18 months worth of solid theatre on leaving Central, and this was my first telly job. And of course, it was a big deal for me. It was kind of guest lead in an episode of The Bill. It was a big show, and I wasn't very good in it because I was not knowing what the hell I was doing in front of the camera. But yes, those steep learning curves where people use terminology that you don't understand. You know, when you walk along and say, just favour the wall. I don't know what that means. When you come in, just banana around there. Don't know what that means. But yes, and of course I thought that I wanted to make it good and make my little bit good. But and I looked back and thought, yeah, it's not very good, but it's not a bad first attempt.
And I always think on shows like such as Before They Were Famous, and when we look at you having been 18 years ago in The Bill, are actors like you on that? Are you thinking, I want to be the star of this? I mean, is that what you're thinking?
I think you certainly, in your heart of hearts, you're not, I don't think anyone goes into acting hoping that they play small parts for the rest of their lives. I don't think they think that.
No, but some people accept being character actors, even from drama school, or that they're going to play smaller roles.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's pretty obvious at drama school, isn't it, quite often, who are going to be the big stars? And
no, it's not. No, it's what's obvious, I think, at drama school. In my experience, in my year at Central, I think it was obvious who, I don't know, it's obvious who is a star at Central. Do you know what I mean? It's obvious who's a star at drama school, and that will not necessarily translate to the real world. Because you're obviously in quite a cosseted environment at drama school or uni or whatever it is, because you're not actually out there with an audience yet, an audience who's paying money, be it literally in theatre or a licence fee or whatever. People vote with their feet or with their remotes, and they're not doing that at Central. You're being rightly brought up and nurtured and all of that stuff that you need to be, but that stuff doesn't always translate. I won't, but I think of people who I could name from my year who've done really well, who were like, they weren't good students, they weren't good little soldiers as students, but they tell the truth and they hit their mark and they're reliable and they're not twats, so that they work,
And as you know, there's a lot of talk at the moment about the kind of people who get into drama school and the routes into acting. Does that concern you, that it is suggested that, and then clearly financially it's much easier if you come from a privileged background?
Yeah, I'm sure it is, yeah. I'm sure it is. And of course, I think that concerns everyone. I think that would concern very rich people from the sort of background where for generations they've been going to good schools and drama schools. I think those people would also know, hopefully, that it's unfair. If I got a grant from Richmond Council to go to Central, and yeah, I mean, I couldn't have done it.
And that would be much harder now to get.
Yeah, really. So I understand, a lot harder. Yeah, a lot rarer.
So the risk clearly is that there are actors such as you who would not now be getting into the profession, or at least not that way.
And I'm lucky because I'm from a background where I was supported. And there were always books in the house. I'm not. I'm not from a background that you'd think no one ever from this background goes to drama school. We didn't have a lot of money, but we were, suburban people who kind of liked theatre and stuff. But no, I wouldn't have been able to go. But I think it's more of a concern that there are loads of people who wouldn't even consider it on the same planet as them. A lot of people just wouldn't think it's an option at all for them. And I knew it was an option for me. Like culturally, I knew it was an option for me. And as far as the possibilities in my life, I thought, well, this is an option, if I can pay for it. But I guess to a lot of people, it's like another planet,
And were you one of those actors where you play the third donkey in a nativity play and some teacher says, my God, I think you've got something there, and that kind of thing? I mean, did people always think you had something?
I was aware of that because I thought I was going to be a squash player from the age of 9 to 14. I really did. That sounds like a beginning of a joke, but it's not. I was.
And you were good, were you?
I was good. I was in the Surrey squad. I was in the national squad. Juniors, and at 14 I kind of fell out of love with it. But when I was so I stopped doing that and I joined a youth theatre. But before that, I went to a Catholic school and we did a musical called The Goliath Jazz, about David and Goliath, and thank you, and I played David, probably, because I'm small. I imagine I was David.
Goliath would have been interesting casting, wouldn't it?
Yeah. You should have seen the guy who played David.
Yeah.
And I had a sort of, I don't know. It wasn't like, this is what I should have been doing, clearly, but I was all right at that, and I felt comfortable, and I felt not terrified of an audience. I was nervous, but I thought this is something that is possible that could happen. It wasn't until I was maybe 17, 18, that I was in youth theatre in Teddington, and I thought I would quite like to pursue this. Because I had been terrified at first at youth theatre, and thought, I looked at people who could sight read, and looked at people who could do anything vaguely realistically, and been in complete awe of that. And when I got a bit better at it and a bit more comfortable, I thought I should try this, And so tried the long road of, applying for drama school, then trying to get into drama, all that.
And we're talking about, we mentioned career progression, and so I just wanted to pick out 3 roles we all saw there. In terms of what difference they made to your career, the kind of things you were offered, the kind of things you could do, which I think clearly are Tim Canterbury in The Office, John Watson in Sherlock, and then Bilbo on film. But if we take those, so first of all, The Office, I mean, that was a significant step up, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely was, That was when... even though it was when it first went out, a relatively small show on BBC Two with no stars in it, it still got more of an audience than anything else I'd done, and I was doing more in it than anything else I'd done. So, that's when people first started to properly know who I was on buses and stuff like that, and on tubes. And it definitely, that changed my life, changed the immediacy of my reality when I would just walk around on the street and get on public transport. That changed a lot. And also it was a big door opener in work, because every fucker watched it. Everyone, everyone in our industry watched it,
But also in America as well. I mean, that is...
people in the industry watched it in America, But I was very naive at that time. I think I was willfully naive. My agent's here today, and I remember him saying in about 2002, we've had a call from the people who represent Adam Sandler. They'd like to talk to you about representing him. And I said to Michael, I was like, well, okay, but we've got phones, and we've got... why do I have to do anything about that? You know, they can just call or... And I wasn't really in a hurry to pursue that sort of thing, and I don't know why. But I wasn't ready for that. I wasn't ready to kind of engage with that. Because I just thought, well, that's why phones and faxes were invented. And the email, just about the email. I don't know what I'm talking about. But yeah, people in America did see it. General public, hardly anyone saw it. But yeah, the industry liked it. But again, if you don't get on that bus when it kind of stops for you, America's a big place and there are 40,000 good things on at any time. And so it's like, yeah, you were good in that, and now there are loads of other people here because you didn't, you know, get on the bus.
And actors, people who don't act, I'm in awe of this. I mean, you're so, writers can write to a certain extent what they want to write, but actors are so dependent on what they're offered.
Yeah.
And what they audition for and other people get and all the rest of it.
Yes.
With The Office, I mean, have you generally known when something was a big deal? Or?
I've known when it's a big deal for me. I've tried to make that my only gauge. I knew I liked The Office. I knew it was to my taste when I read it, and then when we did a read-through of it, and Ricky made me laugh pretty much more than anyone has ever made me laugh. And I thought, well, we like it. This will be good. But there's no way we could have known at all where that would take us. I mean, similarly with Sherlock, you know, we knew we liked it, but you couldn't have guessed what that would be.
And that hyper-naturalistic acting in The Office, which there'd been much less of it then than there has been subsequently for obvious reasons. But is that, I mean, tell me how you approach that. I mean, how it was, so when the script was sent, you knew that was how it had to be done. It had to... Kind of,
yeah, but you sort of take your lead from the house style. You know, you kind of learn from each other, really. And again, you know, to be fair to Ricky, for someone who'd had no training and no background in acting at all, almost everything he knew about acting instinctively was right, you know, and to my taste for that sort of style of thing. You know, you couldn't do Gladiator like that, but, you know, maybe you could. But yeah, he was so brilliantly detailed and small and kind of natural, but knowing where the funny was. You sort of took your lead from that, really. And I don't know, I've never seen any point with comedy of hammering home the jokes. Listen, he, like me, I mean, again, not that I wrote The Office, but what we really bonded over was Spinal Tap. And that was, there's never been a better mock documentary ever. You know, there's never been better acting in a mock documentary ever, because no one's telling us where the joke is. You have to listen, and very often the funniest bits in Spinal Tap aren't the big bits, they're the bits where Derek says something weird, or, you know. So I think that was a huge influence on us, as was Larry Sanders. Just people not stopping to tell you what the joke was. You've got to, and trusting the audience is going to be listening and tuned in and getting it.
I thought in the clips at the beginning, there was a palpable shock when the Hardware clip followed The Office, because once you have a studio audience and they're being delivered as gags, it's really quite startling.
But you see, the Hardware was a show that I really liked script-wise. Simon Nye wrote the script for Hardware, and I read it, I have to say, I read it as a single camera, non-live audience thing. Yeah, no laugh track. And it was true. It wasn't canned laughter. It was an audience like this, and people laughed. You know, and we probably turned it up a bit more. You know, but it was very different, and it wasn't lost on me that people, you know, I'd come out of a big hit and cult show at the same time and gone into a brightly lit ITV mainstream sitcom. In all honesty, that's not how I read it. I really didn't read it. I read it kind of like, this is another very well written, quietish comedy. So it was, and again, I was a bit greener then. I came in and was like, oh no, fuck, we're in a very bright ITV show. And it was, you know, it was fine, but it wasn't, I never thought the show was as good as the scripts were, to be honest.
And it's fascinating, I think, when we look back from now, if we imagine where your career would have been expected to go after The Office. We might have expected Hardware, we might have expected comedy, maybe Eightborn in the West End, you might have been offered. I don't think we would have expected it at all to go into the Eichmann trial and Richard III and Sherlock. So is that, you can attribute it all to your agent if you want, but is that very canny, is that very canny career management, or is that just how it works out. Because that's what all actors want, but not many people get it, that range.
Yeah, well, I think in all truth, it's probably a mixture of a few things. It's a mixture of what is my genuine taste and what's my determination to do and not do. And it's people working on your behalf to kind of just let people know that he's not just this thing. This isn't what he wants to do for the rest of his life. Have you considered him for this, you know? But you know, ultimately, you still have to deliver it or not, and of course, it's up to people. You know, it's people's taste whether they think I've delivered it or not. But you're right, I've done the thing, and I am having a working life that is quite three-dimensional, which I'm loving. I'm really loving. You know, and because when I was at drama school, I never thought I really want to be mistaken for a stand-up comedian for the rest of my life. You know, as was happening for the first few years after The Office, people assumed that I was from a stand-up background or from a sketch comedy background or whatever, and I wasn't. I love that, and I love making people laugh, and I love people making me laugh. But that was never the plan. You know, I wanted to be an actor, and I've always kind of thought I was, a decent actor who can be funny as opposed to just a comedian. You know.
But stereotyping is so much a risk, isn't it, for an actor, particularly if you've been in a hit.
Yeah, it really is.
That's what people think you can
really
do.
Is.
They offer you, and it becomes self-perpetuating.
Totally, yeah. But I think also there's a funny Pavlovian response that happens that, in a way, whatever you do, and again, I'm not making any claims for myself as the greatest chameleon actor in the world. I'm not making that claim. But whatever you do, people think that they're just seeing what they saw you in 14 years ago. There's no way, I can fucking tell you this for nothing, there's no way people would say Sherlock is the same character as Tim Canterbury. There's no fucking way they'd say it. You know, but they know it's me, so it's easy to say that. You know what I mean? It's like, you're just like you were on Front Row. Well, yeah, because you fucking know I am in. You know. That's no great talent.
No, and some reviews, Richard
It's not the same performance. And so that's when it gets frustrating. And that's when you want to... speak up for yourself a little bit. But of course you speak up like I am now, and now I probably just seem like a twat.
No, but some reviews of Richard III said, not surprisingly, he finds great comedy in this role, but there's always been comedy in that role, so that's an example of that.
Yeah, Shakespeare invented that.
Yeah.
Sure, I improved it, but... no, blame Shakespeare for the comedy.
And critics in particular, and actually commissioners, they think strongly in terms of genre. You have a thing called genre commissioners in some place.
Right.
This is a comedy, they don't have a tragedy commissioner as far as I know, but critics think tragedy, comedy. Do you, as an actor, do you think this is a comedy, this is a tragedy?
No. And whenever I've thought, I've usually been wrong, I think, in the like with Hardware, I kind of thought, oh, this is going to be that thing, and it ended up being something else, with all respect to that show. It ended up being something slightly different to how I imagined it. I read a lot of scripts where I think, oh, this is a serious script. And then I do the job, and I find out it's a comedy, because people are telling me it's a comedy, and people are saying, people are going to love this, mate. I'm like, honestly don't read it like that, because I don't think again, this is going to sound self-aggrandizing, but I don't see things in black and white like that. I just don't think life is that simple. It's not... I see things on a more complex level, Mark. But I think a good script is more complex than that. You know, I've said it a million times, but that, you know, Nil by Mouth is also very funny. Do you know what I mean? It's not a comedy. You know, The Sopranos is also very funny, but it's not a comedy. And sometimes Laurel and Hardy is heartbreaking, but it's not a tragedy. You know, if a well-written script will have everything in it unself-consciously, I think.
And the other thing that an actor needs is people who believe in them or give them chances. Ricky Gervais, you've mentioned. Beryl Vertue, we should mention, was you're receiving the Lifetime Achievement Award on her behalf, as she sadly isn't here. But again, so for you, she was another of those figures who... Well, I mean...
Yes, as well as the rest of the team of Sherlock. You know, I don't think. I mean, Stephen and Sue can put me right on it. I don't think she was the one who said him. It has to be him. I think they, I think there was a committee about that. But it happens that when I'm able to bend her ear about her life, I just like talking to her. Do you know what I mean? I'm slightly in awe of her, just the way she's managed to do a bit of that and a bit of that. It's like you forget, oh Christ, then you're also part of that world, and So she's just someone who I think is really interesting for me to speak to, because half the things she's done were half of my favourite things when I was 12.
Such as
Hancock.
Yeah.
Like I got that from my parents, I suppose, because obviously when I was born after it, and So it wasn't on telly when I was a kid, but I'd have tapes or records and script books and stuff, and I was kind of obsessed with Tony Hancock for a long time. For a while, he was all I drew. I was quite a good drawer, and he was all I drew for ages as a 12-year-old, yeah.
And you talk about reading a script and then the way it turns out. Sherlock's a good example of that, because very unusually, on the first DVD set, there's the pilot, which was the abandoned pilot, as it turned out, and then that script was in effect redone. But with that, so when you got that script, did you see it as a huge opportunity?
Again, there's no way on God's earth you could have foreseen what would happen to it as far as how people receive it is concerned, but I knew I liked it. I knew within about 4 pages I was really excited and I wanted to go in for it and, you know, get the job. So I went in for it and apparently did a terrible audition. And Michael rang me a couple of weeks later and said, so they sort of hated you, and they seemed like you were a really moody prick, and they think you didn't want it. I was like, no, I really, and I might well have been a moody prick, but I really did want it. So I went back again and read with Ben, and luckily it went better. But you know, I knew that was a good script.
So 2 auditions and 2 first episodes for that. So it shows how hard it is to get things
Yeah, well,
right.
Yeah, I mean, it would it's always hard to get things right. But see, I thought the pilot episode was great. I loved it. You know, I think while we were making that pilot episode, we all thought this is really good. I still thought it was better than most other things that were on telly. And when it was put to me, between making the pilot and between making the series that the BBC wanted to make 90 minutes, I thought, these fools, what do they know? What's wrong with an hour? You know, they're going to ruin it with this. And I really did think this just seems like, you know, I don't know, I just felt it seemed a bit silly, actually. And I was happily extremely wrong in that.
And we're talking about technique in this, but also genres. TV and film, when filming, is it even significant to you, this is TV, this is
Not at
film?
all. Not at all. Not in the least, no. Because my job is still the same. All actors' job is still the same. You know, you have to just convince the audience that this moment is really happening. That's the beginning, middle, and end of your job, I think. The other stuff that is different are the externals, and you know, the bit where you call cut, and then you go off, and there's either a sandwich or there's a big table of nice food. You know, that and very often not even that. There's not even that difference. You know, because most films aren't big budget, and you know, I've done a lot of kind of small budget film. I've done a few big budget ones, but I've done a lot of things that are not exactly, you know, throwing money at you or. But yeah, that's where you notice what the difference is. You notice it, but never. I never notice it in my job because it's a camera. It's a camera. You know?
So, in effect, you're complaining about the catering on Sherlock there.
Me and Sue have had that conversation before. Yeah. No, the catering's all right on Sherlock. Right.
And again, which a lot of actors haven't had, you've had the experience of doing Fargo in America, Sherlock, and other TV here.
Yeah.
In terms of the production process...
And the food.
Yes. And,
Food's quite similar. Yeah. Quite similar.
But in terms of the production process, did it feel very different, American TV and British TV?
Not really, apart from schedule, actually. I couldn't believe how quickly they make quality television. It's really quick. Because I thought, well, you know, we're always under the cosh here because there's no money for anything, there's never any time or money to do stuff. We would always want more time, we would always want, you know, more of a cushion with that. But they make Breaking Bad in like 7 or 8 days per episode, and Fargo was 7 or 8 days per episode. And yeah, that really surprised me. Because that is, you know, for want of a better word, very filmic, and it looks like a feature film, and so you assume that it's going to be like 3 weeks per episode. They do it really quickly. They don't hang around. There's a great organisational skill behind that stuff. But apart from that, no, it's the same. It's the same tribulations everywhere. The same difficulties, the same pleasures, the same discomforts. Yeah, I think it's the same.
And if it's quicker, you have to do more work yourself, do you? You have to turn up readier to do it.
I suppose that would be the logical thing to take from that. But I think people generally expect you to come prepared, you know. I think generally people expect you rightly to come and do your job, you know. And that's with the difference between theatre and camera work. Generally speaking, even a very good camera director, be it film or television, will probably not tell you as much about acting as a theatre director will, because he or she will assume that, you know, we've cast you because you know how to do that thing, and you haven't got 5 weeks of rehearsal to dig around in what this scene really means. Just they want you to do it, you know. So I think the nature of television and film is pretty much that you have to come and be ready to do it. Yeah.
And Bilbo, which is one of those examples really of physique being destiny, isn't it? Because you're not. No, he's.
Yeah, but Richard Armitage is 6'1" and he's a bloody dwarf, you know.
Yeah.
So you know.
But it is. But I think in the way people think, producers. I mean, it's very unlikely. I mean, like Angus Wright, that actor who's 6'8" or something. Yeah. They probably wouldn't think of him as.
But that's because Angus isn't a very good actor. I know Angus. He's a showbiz pal. No, yeah, they probably wouldn't. Yeah. Yes, I'm not a very tall person, and I guess that's known. Yeah. But truthfully, they do. So yeah, I know what you mean about perception. But But again, they're buggering about with everyone's height anyway. Do you know what I mean?
And in terms of what it allowed you to do in trailers, private jets, better catering, all of
very
that,
good catering.
Did it make a significant difference?
Well, that was, you know, up to that point and probably for the rest of my life, that's a big number, you know, as far as production is concerned, as far as budget and everything is concerned. We were all very well looked after. So yeah, you notice that, you really notice that you are afforded every opportunity to do your job as comfortably as you can. That means how you travel and how you're looked after and how you eat and where you sit. You know, it wasn't, and again, it was very egalitarian. Everyone who was on that job, it was all, you know, not one of us didn't get a big, everyone had the same, not huge trailer. Everyone had nice chairs and, you know, it was, I thought it was a very good, well-run, fair job, I thought, actually, yeah.
And did it noticeably open up other opportunities? I mean, your agent will know whether you were offered lots of small mythical creatures after after that.
Yes, I guess it did. I think it. Well, for instance, like being offered something like Fargo, I'm guessing that wouldn't have happened in the way that it did without being in the midst of those films as I was, you know. Because I think one of the first one had come out, the second one was about to come out when I was offered Fargo. And I don't think that would have happened. I would have had to go through some hoops, I'm sure, to get that.
And it's an awful word, but it's that star thing, isn't it? You are then classified as a star, which is what has happened.
Yes, I suppose so. Yeah, to a certain extent, I guess so. Yeah, but then there's.
But you have to try not to think that. I mean, if you're an actor, but I mean that is what's happened in terms of external perception.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I suppose so. And there are, God knows, there are, you know, upsides and downsides to that. And the upside is, wow, I was offered a really good American TV show, which I don't think I would have had to audition for that. And the downside is that, well, many downsides. Yeah.
Well, no, talk. I mean, what are the downsides? More public attention.
Well, yes. Yeah, which is not, you know, like for you like doing work. And you certainly don't complain about the kind of work that you get offered now. And I don't complain about earning a good living. It's fantastic, of course it is. But I don't really think people go into it thinking, God, the fame and the stopping, you know, getting and constantly pictures and signing, isn't this great? I don't really think people do think that. I get it, I understand it. It's not why you get into it at all. You know, it's not. So if you want to go and buy some milk, and you'd allowed yourself 5 minutes for that trip and not an hour, then it's, listen, I hate this phrase, first world problems, because, fuck it, there's still problems. We all live in the first world, you know. If we didn't complain about first world problems, we'd never complain about anything. And that would be awful if we never complained about anything. But yeah, it's not a terrible thing, but it's not my favourite thing in the world, no, that side of the public perception, no.
And scheduling, because Sherlock, all of you are involved in other things because the writer's also doing Doctor Who. Benedict Cumberbatch is doing everything, including Hamlet and Barbican. You have many other things.
I think he's doing this in a minute.
Yeah.
He's taken over from me.
Yeah. So that is, Sherlock will always be that problem of carving out enough time when you can all do it.
No,
and yet it does appear that you all want to, though.
Well, the hard thing is, you know, Stephen, Mark, Ben, me, everyone's busy. But yeah, we make time to do it because I can only speak for myself. It's one of the best written things I think I'll ever do. It's been beautifully shot. It's been beautifully directed. and it's, yeah, you don't think of those things lightly because they don't come along very often, if ever, in an actor's life. So it's worth carving out the time for it. But I think the upside of that is that we haven't made, even if we'd wanted to, or even if we were able to, I don't think between any of us, we probably wouldn't have wanted to make, 15 a year. But I think for all those people who say, make more, it's like when we did The Office. Why didn't you go on? And and in 5 years you would have hated us. And
I think George Osborne has said, hasn't he, that he doesn't understand why there aren't 20 a year.
George Osborne doesn't understand something?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
It doesn't sound like George
It's
Osborne.
not being exploited enough as a hit.
Okay. Well, yeah,
but the way it's written and the way it's done, you couldn't make that kind of volume, could you?
I wouldn't want to. I mean, and again, it's not up to. I'm not in charge of the show, but I'm kind of glad in a way that we don't do it all the time because I have a very low boredom threshold. I really do. I want to do other things, and what starts off as a real pleasure and feels like playtime very quickly can become, oh God, for me anyway. I didn't get into this world and this job as a sort of replacement for a proper job. I like the unknown. I like not knowing what I'm doing next. I really do. I mean, as long as I don't starve to death, as long as my family are all right, I like the thing of, okay, well, this is an adventure. I'm not quite sure if I'm working for the next 6 weeks. Let's try and get something on, But if it was like 9 months of Sherlock, the first month would be great, and the next 8 months would be, oh, Christ, really?
And we'll just open up to the audience in a moment. But we've mentioned politics a few times, and you are quite politically engaged. I mean,
a bit. I'm not as much as I used to.
A key figure in the Liz Kendall leadership race for the Labour Party, as everyone knows. But actually, we've got in America, we've got someone from entertainment, Donald Trump, actually going into politics. I mean, is that something you've ever thought about?
Not at all, no. Because, if I watch Question Time or Newsnight or whatever, and I can be hissing and booing or cheering or whatever, any one of the people that I don't like or any one of the people who I'm booing would take me to the cleaners in a debate because this is what they do for a living. It's like trying to think, I'll have a fight with that boxer. No, you won't. They'll kill you. And it's like, however much I dislike someone or think they're wrong, they'd take me apart in a debate. That's why I would never go on anything like Question Time or, as the celeb. No way. I mean, I know.
Have you been asked?
I'm not sure. Do you know what? I'm not sure if I have. I'm not sure if I have, actually.
We don't think so. Oh, well,
no, okay. Well, yeah.
So they can ask you now, and then you can turn it down.
I would turn it down.
Yeah.
I'm turning it down before they ask me. But things that you are asked to sort of pundit on things.
Yeah.
And yes, and I did a little film for the Labour Party last time, just because, gun to my head, that's who I'm going to go with, But I would never do it for any party or any person thinking this is the second coming of any. But I don't believe in people in that way, I think it's always the best of a bad lot in politics. I really do. And it's like this is the most we can hope for, as opposed to this will usher in a new great wave of whatever. I don't believe really that that's going to happen with anybody. But the reason that I did the Labour thing and then didn't do anything after that at all, and I know I was asked to do Question Time. Don't make me look bad. That was a Laura Simons thing. I was asked to do stuff like that in the wake of it, as I knew I would be, and I knew that I didn't, because I'm not that animal. I can't go on and do that and look impressive. I wouldn't have served the Labour Party or myself well at all if I'd been getting into a set two with, David Cameron about anything factual. Do you know what I mean? I'd know more about the jam than him, but that's about it.
And last one, you don't have to answer, but we would perhaps guess Jeremy Corbyn would be your preference of the four?
Well, yes. I mean, I think his critics are right. People who say don't vote for a T-shirt, don't vote for a badge, or a beard. It's all very well, if somebody just tells you what you think, want to hear, and preaching to the choir. I totally get that. And if it means that we're in the wilderness, then it's no good at all. However, I happen to think that he is the most impressive one of the four. I do. I think all that stuff is true about we should be cautious about what we fall in love with. However, if I'm presented with the four people who they are, I respect all of them because I wouldn't do it, and they're all on my team. But yeah, I think he's the most impressive one as an individual. Yeah.
Okay, let's take as many as we can in this. It's very crowded, so I don't know if we can. We'll try to get microphones around. Yeah. Who'd like to start off? Anyone? Yes. Lady over there. We can get a microphone too. And then if someone on that side wants to wave for the microphone, we'll do it as many as we can. Yes.
Hello.
Hello.
You said you weren't often moved to punditry, but we saw you lay your heart bare for The Jam on Monday night. I just wondered why Paul Weller and co were such an exception when it came to something like that.
Well, yeah, music was my favourite thing, and still is my favourite thing since I was 5 or 6, I guess. You know, as an art form, it's my favourite art form. And yeah, I've always loved that. I mean, I love a lot of people, but I love The Jam, and they were. Well, again, I can't over-talk it because it just talking about music is a difficult one. They were just a really good band. They had great tunes and great lyrics, and they did. I wasn't the only person who was partly shaped by that. Now that doesn't mean, you know, I'm 43. It's not like I'm going to think everything I thought when I was 12. But I do kind of think some of those things. And that would have been partly down to two-tone and The Jam and reggae and things that I was listening to as a very small child, yeah.
Has someone on this side got? No? Please do. We'll try and take as many as we can.
Hello.
Yes, there's a...
Hello.
We'll get the microphone up to you unless you...
Don't speak yet.
Don't. You've got a loud voice.
You'll ruin
we'll
yourself.
shout. And then again, if anyone wants to get that microphone, and then we can go straight to the next one.
Can I just ask if you have any thoughts on the issue of diversity and the opportunities for actors in this country in comparison to America, where obviously you've done a lot of business?
Yeah, I remember Idris Elba. I'd known him a little bit at drama school because he was very good friends with a guy who was in my year at Central. So I would see Idris at kind of social do's and things. And I remember being on the tube with him in about 98, I suppose. And we shared a Central Line journey. And he said, I think I'm going to go to America. I was like, really, are you? Why? You know, why? He said, because, you know, there's not really much else to do here. You know, just opportunities for black actors at that time and probably still are different to what they are in America. Cut to a couple of years later, he's in The Wire, you know. And again, that's not like, and if you go to America, this will happen. Of course not. But yeah, I think there is definitely a feeling among some actors I know that, and he's not the only one, I know other British actors who have gone and had a different life. You know, I just think there is a different ceiling, maybe, there. And I can't be any more profound or intelligent than that. But I think there is a difference, yeah.
Is there anyone over there who wants to? Yeah.
I think I'm right that it was here.
Where are you? Hello.
Hey. Paul Andrew Williams that directed you in the Eichmann show.
Yes.
And I'm a big fan of him. I was his assistant once. And I loved London to Brighton. And I just wondered what kind of director he is now, because he's quite experimental, he's quite off the wall. And what was your experience with him?
I love Paul. He was very, very passionate, and kind of like a lot of directors, his entire guts were in every moment of directing that film. You saw real pain in his face sometimes, you know, when things were a bit difficult. As again, I've never done a job where things aren't a bit difficult 70% of the time. And it really shows on his face. And the thing that I took the mickey about him, of him about was, and he won't mind me saying this, why would he? Was that his look was permanently confused and angry. And he, of course, denies that, and he'll hate me for saying that. But yeah, he cares a lot. You know, he cares as much as you want a director to care.
Did he eat a lot of fried chicken?
No, he didn't. I don't think he did. I think
he must have changed.
He was being quite healthy. I think. But it was fun. Yeah, good fun. I really like Paul. I hope to work with him again. There's a script knocking around that we are both quite keen to do together at some point. I liked him very much. Yeah.
Oh, great. Good luck with it.
Thank you.
Okay, last chance on this side. Anyone like to? Yes, gentleman there with his... Have you got a loud voice, or should we wait for...
No. Is there a particular genre I'd like to go after next? No. Not really. I judge... Eh?
Cheers, that's it.
No. Yeah, not really. Thank you. No, I guess because I read... Yeah, when I read a script, I'm purely going on, do I like the writing? And that it could be anything. You know, it could be a musical set on Mars, or it could be a kitchen sink. Whatever it is, I'm just going on, is it well written, and has it been written by an individual voice and not a committee Is it a true? You know, is someone telling the truth when they've written it? That's all I'm looking out for, really. So, no, I don't really consider things like the type of film it is, just whether it's a good thing. To my, and it's totally subjective. Whether it just appeals to me, you know, and that's a hard one because I don't even sometimes know why I'm rejecting a script or why you know, it's not very easy to explain with actual English words. But you just know, you feel it, you know.
Have you ever turned one down that somebody else has won an Oscar for or had a huge success with?
I don't think so. I don't think so.
It does happen,
no.
doesn't it? I mean, you know people
Yeah, not to me it doesn't. No, I don't think I have. No, because also, without trying to sound like I don't like award. Of course, everyone likes getting an award. It's great, but you're also not thinking that when you are reading a script, you know. Because if it's not right for you, it's not going to be suddenly made right for you just because 2 years later you win a bit of metal for it, you know. Because that might have been miserable, or you might have been feeling like a fraud, or you know, and nothing is worth that. And I hasten to add, awards are lovely, but it's not worth doing something that you know is not right for you. Yeah.
Well, Martin Freeman will be accepting an award tonight for his extraordinary performance as Beryl Vertue, which a role he's played for a number of years, undetected very largely.
Yeah.
Anyway, he'll be picking that up. Thank you very much for being such a large and attentive audience, and thank you particularly to Martin Freeman.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. Thanks a lot.